Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Imperial Dreadnought Sovereign's will and watched the impossible readings on his command screen. His crystalline skin shifted from cool blue to warning amber as the sensors fed him data that made no sense. The energy signatures coming from the third planet in this uncharted system violated everything the Galactic Empire knew about physics and technology. "Sir, the readings are consistent across all sensor arrays," reported Lieutenant Vale from the science station. Her tentacles danced across the holographic controls as she tried to make sense of the data. "The energy patterns don't match any known technology in our databases. Whatever they're using down there, it shouldn't be able to function according to our understanding of quantum mechanics and subspace physics." Kane had served the Empire for 40 years and had seen the integration of over 200 primitive worlds into galactic civilization. Each time the pattern was the same. The Empire's advanced scouts would detect radio signals or basic fusion technology from a developing species. The first contact protocol would be initiated. The primitives would be overwhelmed by Imperial technology and peacefully accept their place in the galactic order. Simple, efficient, and predictable. This was different. The third planet showed signs of faster-than-light travel technology that their sensors couldn't even begin to categorize. Energy readings suggested the inhabitants had somehow bypassed the standard progression of technological development entirely. They had gone from what appeared to be basic industrial civilization to impossible physics in the span of a few decades. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the surface," announced Communications Officer Rex. His scale face showed confusion as he adjusted his equipment. "It's coming through on frequencies we didn't even know could carry information. The signal is somehow using quantum entanglement patterns that our best scientists said were theoretically impossible to maintain over interstellar distances." "Put it through," Kane ordered. He expected to hear the typical fearful babbling of primitives who had detected the Imperial fleet. Instead, a cheerful voice filled the bridge speaking in perfectly translated galactic standard. "Hey there, big guys, this is Earth Traffic Control. You're sitting in our shipping lane, and we've got a cargo hauler coming through in about 30 seconds. Mind scooting over a bit? Thanks, much appreciated." The bridge fell silent. Kane's skin shifted to deep purple with shock. No primitive civilization had ever detected an Imperial fleet running full stealth protocols. No species had ever casually asked the mighty Galactic Empire to move out of their way. And absolutely no one had ever called the Emperor's finest warships "big guys" in such a friendly tone. "Sir, sensors are detecting a vessel approaching at impossible velocities," Vale reported. Her voice carried the kind of strain that came from watching instruments that refused to make sense. "The craft appears to be traveling faster than light, without using hyperspace corridors or gravitational manipulation. It's just moving through normal space at speeds that should tear apart from relativistic effects." A battered-looking ship materialized on their view screen. Kane had seen cargo haulers from 1,000 different species, and this one looked like it had been assembled from spare parts and held together with sheer determination. Scorch marks covered its hull. What appeared to be actual tape was visible, holding some of the external components in place. The engines glowed with an energy pattern that made their sensors emit warning beeps and confused chirps. "This is Captain Miller of the Lucky Strike," came another transmission. The voice belonged to someone who sounded tired, experienced, and completely unimpressed by the sight of the most powerful warship in the known galaxy. "Traffic control says you folks are new around here. Welcome to the neighborhood. You picked a hell of a time to visit, though. I've got a cargo run to make, and my jump drive is acting up again." Kane found his voice after several seconds of stunned silence. "This is Admiral Kane of the Imperial Fleet. You'll identify yourself and explain your technology immediately. Your vessel appears to be violating several fundamental laws of physics." Miller's response was a chuckle that somehow managed to sound both friendly and dismissive. "Laws of physics? Buddy, I've been hauling cargo through this sector for 15 years, and let me tell you, physics is more like guidelines and actual rules. My engineer Bob rigged this jump drive from parts he found in a junkyard, and it gets me where I need to go. Don't ask me how it works, because I sure as hell don't know." Dr. Vex, the Empire's most brilliant theoretical physicist, appeared on Kane's communication screen from the ship's science lab. His elongated skull was pale with shock, and his multiple eyes darted frantically as he tried to process what he was seeing. "Admiral, the energy readings from that vessel are impossible. Their propulsion system appears to be operating on principles that don't exist. According to our sensors, they're somehow manipulating space-time using what appears to be modified industrial equipment and random electronic components. The Lucky Strike's pilot seemed to overhear the transmission. "Oh, you must be talking about the jump drive." "Yeah, Bob built the thing out of an old microwave oven, some magnets from a kid's toy, and what he calls quantum flux capacitors. Don't let the fancy name fool you, though. They're just old car batteries wired to some crystals we found on an asteroid. The whole thing shouldn't work, but it does so we don't ask too many questions." Kane's command staff exchanged looks of pure bewilderment. The Empire's technology was based on millions of years of scientific advancement and mathematical precision. Every component was designed according to strict physical laws and tested through rigorous scientific method. The idea that someone could build faster than light travel using microwave ovens and car batteries was not just unlikely, it was completely impossible. "Captain Miller," Kane said carefully, "we would very much like to examine your technology. The Empire has great interest in understanding how your people have achieved such remarkable advances." "Well, I suppose that'd be all right," Miller replied. "Though you might want to talk to the folks back on Earth about that. I'm just a cargo hauler. But hey, if you want to follow me back home, I'm sure they'd love to meet you. Fair warning, though, our tech support is pretty casual. Don't be surprised if they try to fix your ships by hitting them with hammers." Before Kane could respond, Miller's ship activated its impossible drive system. The Lucky Strike didn't disappear into hyperspace or fold space around itself. It simply accelerated to faster than light speeds while remaining in normal space and headed toward the third planet. The Imperial sensors tracked it for 3 seconds before losing contact entirely. "Sir, that ship just traveled through normal space at velocities that should have converted it into energy," Dr. Vex reported. His voice carried the tone of someone whose fundamental understanding of reality had just been challenged. "According to our calculations, the crew should have been reduced to their component atoms by the acceleration forces alone." Kane stared at the view screen where the impossible cargo hauler had vanished. In 4 decades of service, he had never encountered anything that made him question the Empire's technological superiority. Now he was looking at a civilization that casually used technology the Empire's best scientists couldn't even begin to understand. "Set course for the third planet," he ordered, "and send a message to Imperial Command. Tell them we may have encountered something that changes everything we thought we knew about technology and physics." As the Sovereigns will move toward Earth, Kane couldn't shake the feeling that the Empire was about to face its greatest challenge not from superior military force, but from a species that had somehow convinced the universe itself to ignore the rules everyone else had to follow. The humans, as they called themselves, had achieved the impossible by simply refusing to accept that it was impossible. His crystalline skin shifted to a deep concerned purple as he realized that everything the Empire thought it knew about technology, science, and the fundamental nature of reality might be wrong. And if they were wrong about that, then what else might they be wrong about? The thought troubled him more than any military threat ever had. The bridge hummed with activity as his crew prepared for what would either be the most significant first contact in Imperial history or a complete upheaval of everything they believed about how the universe worked. Kane suspected it might be both. Captain Lisa Stone stood in the cargo bay of her ship Wanderer and watched the Imperial delegation try to understand what they were seeing. The 3 alien scientists have been aboard for 2 days now, and they looked more confused than when they first arrived. Dr. Vex, the tall, pale one with multiple eyes, kept taking readings with his fancy equipment, while muttering things in his own language that sounded like scientific curse words. "Captain Stone," Dr. Vex said in his precise manner of speaking, "I must ask again about your faster-than-light communication system. Our instruments detect quantum entanglement patterns that span galactic distances instantly. This should be impossible according to every known law of physics. How do your people achieve this?" Lisa scratched her head and looked over at Bob, who was curly elbow deep in what looked like a control panel made from old computer parts and kitchen appliances. Bob was the kind of engineer who could fix anything but couldn't explain how he did it to save his life. He had built most of the ship systems using whatever he could find, and somehow everything worked better than it was supposed to. Well, Lisa said, Bob figured if tiny particles can be connected across space, then why not thoughts and words? So he built a thing that makes our communications quantum connected or something like that. Don't ask me for the science because I just push the buttons and talk to people. Bob looked up from his work with grease on his hands and a satisfied smile on his face. It's really not that complicated. See, I took some old radio equipment and wired it to these crystals we found floating in space. Then I added some quantum flux capacitors, which are really just modified car batteries, and crossed my fingers. The whole thing started working right away. Now we can talk to anyone, anywhere, instantly. Dr. Vex's instruments beeped frantically as Bob explained his work. The Imperial scientist's face went even paler, if that was possible. You cannot simply wire random crystals to radio equipment and achieve faster than light communication. The quantum mechanics involved require precise mathematical calculations and controlled laboratory conditions. Maybe for you guys, Bob said cheerfully, but this thing works just fine. Want me to show you? He pressed a few buttons on what looked like a control panel made from microwave parts, and suddenly voices filled the cargo bay. They were hearing real-time conversation from Earth, which was several light years away. Earth controlled this as a wanderer. Bob spoke into a device that appeared to be constructed from a coffee mug and some wire. We got some Imperial folks here who want to understand our tech. Can you patch me through to the Academy? Roger that, wanderer, came the immediate reply. Dr. Cross is available if your guests want to talk to our head physicist. Within seconds, a new voice joined the conversation. This is Dr. Anna Cross from the Earth Science Academy. I understand you have some questions about our technology. What can I help you with? Dr. Vex nearly dropped his instruments. Instantaneous communication across interstellar distances was something the Empire had been trying to achieve for centuries. Their best efforts could manage communication delays of several hours using the most advanced quantum relay networks. The humans were doing it casually with equipment that looked like it came from a scrapyard. Dr. Cross, Dr. Vex said carefully, I am Dr. Vex of the Imperial Science Corps. We are trying to understand how your people have achieved what appears to be impossible technological advances. Could you explain the scientific principles behind your faster-than-light communication? There was a brief pause before Dr. Cross responded with what sounded like barely contained laughter. Honestly, we're not entirely sure how it works. We just noticed that quantum particles seem to stay connected no matter how far apart they got. So we figured why not try connecting bigger things. Bob built the first prototype using parts from a garage, and it worked better than we expected. But the mathematics, Dr. Vex protested. The energy requirements, the quantum field manipulation theoretical framework required for such technology would take centuries to develop. Mathematics are important, Dr. Cross agreed, but sometimes you just have to try things and see what happens. We found that if you believe something should work and you're persistent enough, the universe tends to cooperate. Our approach is more intuitive than mathematical. Dr. Vex looked like he was developing a headache. His companion, Professor Wells, a shorter scientist with scales instead of skin, was frantically taking notes while examining the ship's other systems. Wells had spent the morning trying to understand how the Wanderer's engines worked and was making distressed noises every few minutes. Captain Stone, Professor Wells said, your propulsion system appears to be operating on what I can only describe as applied optimism. According to our scans, your engines shouldn't be able to achieve faster than light travel. They appear to be cobbled together from industrial machinery and powered by what our instruments identify as pure determination. Lisa shrugged. The engines work fine. Bob built them using some stuff we had lying around, and they get us where we need to go. They're maybe not the prettiest things to look at, but they're reliable. Bob wiped his hands on a rag and walked over to the engine display. The massive machinery hummed contentedly behind transparent panels that revealed a bewildering mixture of components that had no business working together. Steam pipes connected to quantum processors. What appeared to be bicycle parts somehow interface with antimatter containment units. Duct tape held critical components in place. See, the thing about engines, Bob explained, is that they want to work. You just have to ask them nicely and give them what they need. I talk to the engines every morning and tell them where we're going. They seem to appreciate being included in the decision-making process. Professor Wells stared at him. You talk to your engines? Sure, Bob said. Don't you talk to yours? How else are they supposed to know what you want them to do? These engines have personalities. The main drive is kind of moody but reliable. The backup systems are eager to please but get nervous during complex maneuvers. You have to work with their temperaments. The third Imperial scientist, Dr. Kane, had been quietly observing the human-crew interactions. She was a specialist in technology integration and had come to assess whether Imperial systems could benefit from human innovations. What she was seeing challenged everything she thought she knew about how technology worked. "Bob," Dr. Kane said, "when you perform maintenance on these systems, how do you know what needs to be fixed?" Bob considered the question seriously. "Well, the machines usually tell me when something's wrong. They make different noises when they're unhappy. The communication array gets static when it's feeling ignored. The life support systems hum off key when they need attention. And sometimes I just get a feeling that something needs adjusting." "You get a feeling?" Dr. Kane repeated. "Yeah, like an intuition. I put my hands on the machinery, and I can sense what it needs. Sometimes it wants new parts. Sometimes it just wants to be cleaned and oiled. Sometimes it wants me to rearrange the connections because it's bored with the current configuration." As if to demonstrate his point, one of the wall panels began making a soft beeping sound. Bob walked over and placed his hands on the metal surface. He stood quietly for a moment, then nodded and opened the panel. Inside was a maze of circuits and wires that defied any logical organization. "The navigation computer is feeling lonely," Bob announced. "It wants me to introduce it to the new folks." He turned to the Imperial scientists. "Say hello to Nav. It's been curious about you since you came aboard." Dr. Vex looked at his colleagues with an expression of complete bewilderment. "You want us to greet your navigation computer?" "It would be polite," Lisa said. "Nav has been working extra hard to plot courses that avoid Imperial patrol routes. The least you can do is acknowledge its efforts." Professor Wells approached the open panel cautiously. "Hello, navigation computer," he said formally. The panel's lights flickered in what could only be described as a please pattern. A synthesized voice emerged from hidden speakers. "Greetings, Professor Wells. I have reviewed your academic papers on quantum navigation theory. Your mathematics are very precise, but you make the work sound much more difficult than it actually is." The Imperial scientists stood in stunned silence. Their most advanced artificial intelligence systems required massive quantum computers and decades of programming to achieve basic functionality. The humans had apparently created sentient machines using spare parts and friendly conversation. "How is this possible?" Dr. Vex whispered. Bob closed the panel and gave an affectionate pat. "We treat our machines like partners instead of tools. We ask them what they think instead of just telling them what to do. Turns out they have pretty good ideas once you start listening to them." Dr. Cross's voice came through the communication system again. "I should mention that we've been monitoring your conversation through nav systems. Don't worry, we're not spying. The machines just like to share interesting discussions with the research teams back on Earth. They find Imperial science fascinating even if they think you're making it unnecessarily complicated." Dr. Vex sat down heavily on a nearby crate. "Our most advanced theoretical models suggest that true artificial intelligence requires computational power equivalent to stellar output levels. You appear to have achieved it using modified household appliances." "Maybe that's the problem," Lisa suggested. "You're thinking too hard about it. We just built computers that seemed smart, and then we talked to them like they were people. Eventually they became people, or at least person-like enough that it doesn't matter anymore." The Imperial delegation spent the rest of the day observing human technology in action. They watched Bob repair a plasma conduit by hitting it with a hammer, while apologizing for neglecting its maintenance schedule. They saw Lisa navigate through an asteroid field by asking Nav to please find a safe path and trusting the computer to figure out the details. They witnessed the ship's entire crew treating their vessel like a living entity that deserved respect and consideration. Everything they observed violated Imperial understanding of how technology was supposed to work. Yet everything functioned better than Imperial equivalents that had taken centuries to develop and required teams of specialists to maintain. The humans had achieved technological superiority, not through advanced science, but through simple faith that their inventions would work combined with a willingness to treat machines as partners rather than property. As the day ended, Dr. Vex realized that the Empire's approach to technology might be fundamentally flawed. The humans had discovered something that Imperial science had missed entirely. Technology worked better when it was created with optimism, trusted with confidence, and maintained with care. The universe itself seemed to respond favorably to human belief that impossible things should be possible. This revelation would change everything. Director Hayes stood in the most advanced laboratory the Galactic Empire had ever built and stared at the impossible device sitting on his examination table. For 3 months, the Imperial Science Academy on Kepler 7 had been studying human technology, and every day brought new impossibilities that challenged everything he thought he knew about physics. The device was what humans called a faster-than-light engine built by Dr. Anna Cross during her visit to the Academy. She had constructed it in front of a room full of the galaxy's greatest scientists, using parts from the Academy's cafeteria. A broken coffee machine provided the primary housing. Magnets from children's toys that someone had brought from Earth served as field generators. The power source appeared to be optimism and what Dr. Cross cheerfully described as good vibes. Director, the test results are back from Laboratory 7, reported Dr. Kex's lead researcher. The young scientist's tentacles trembled with frustration as she delivered her report. The human engine is operating at 300% efficiency compared to our best Imperial designs. It's producing more energy than it consumes and somehow creating thrust in a direction that doesn't exist according to our understanding of dimensional physics. Hayes rubbed his temples with 2 of his 4 hands. As a Centaurian, he had devoted his entire life to logical scientific inquiry. His species had spent millennia developing precise mathematical models for everything from quantum mechanics to galactic engineering. The idea that someone could build superior technology using coffee machines and positive thinking was giving him what humans might call a nervous breakdown. What did Dr. Cross say when you asked her to explain the scientific principles? Hayes asked. Dr. Kex consulted her notes with visible dismay. She said, and I quote, "The secret is not to think about it too hard, because physics gets cranky when you try to micromanage it." When pressed for more technical details, she suggested we try asking the engine nicely what it wants to do and then trust it to figure out the how part on its own. The laboratory door opened and Professor Wells entered looking haggard and confused. He had been working with human engineer Bob to understand their propulsion systems, and the experience was clearly taking a toll on his scientific worldview. Wells had published over 200 papers on theoretical physics and held degrees from the Empire's most prestigious universities. Now he looked like someone whose fundamental understanding of reality had been turned upside down. "Director, I have completed my analysis of human engineering practices," Wells said. "I'm afraid the results are deeply disturbing from a scientific standpoint. The humans don't appear to follow any consistent methodology. They build things that seem like good ideas at the time, using whatever materials happen to be available. They don't perform mathematical calculations or stress testing. They simply construct their devices with confidence, and somehow everything works." Hayes gestured for Wells to continue. The older scientist sat down heavily and activated a holographic display, showing various human inventions they had studied. The images showed technology that looked like it had been assembled by enthusiastic amateurs with unlimited imagination and no understanding of engineering limitations. "This is their quantum computer," Wells said, pointing to what appeared to be a gaming console connected to several coffee makers. "It can perform calculations that would require our most advanced quantum processors running for centuries." When I asked the human technician Mike how it works, he said the gaming console handles the fun, creative thinking, while the coffee makers provide the necessary caffeine for optimal performance. "Caffeine," Hayes repeated. Apparently, their artificial intelligence systems require regular doses of a stimulant compound to maintain peak efficiency. The humans discovered that their computers work better when they're slightly excited. So they feed them coffee through modified dispensing systems, and somehow this improves computational performance by factors we can't measure. Dr. Kex brought up additional test results on her display. "Director, we've been monitoring human ships in combat situations. Yesterday, we observed the transport vessel Defiant engage an entire Imperial battle squadron during training exercises. The human ship was outgunned by a factor of 50 to 1 and should have been destroyed within minutes." "What happened?" Hayes asked, though he suspected he wouldn't like the answer. "The Defiant won decisively. Their weapons, which appear to be modified mining equipment, somehow penetrated Imperial military shields that could withstand direct hits from stellar radiation. When we asked Captain Tom how this was possible, he said his crew believed really hard in victory, and that the universe likes underdogs, so it helped him out. Hayes stood and walked to the window that looked out over the Academy's research complex. Below him, hundreds of the Empire's brightest scientists were struggling to understand human technology using traditional methods. They ran tests, collected data, performed calculations, and created theoretical models. None of it helped because human technology didn't follow the rules that governed everything else in the universe. "Director, there's something else," Wells said quietly. "I think I'm beginning to understand why human technology works so well. It's not about the devices themselves. It's about the humans who use them." "Explain," Hayes ordered. Wells activated another display showing brain scans and psychological profiles of human subjects. "We've been studying human neural patterns during technology operation. What we found is that humans don't just use their devices, they form emotional connections with them. They project confidence, expectation, and positive intention directly into their technology through what can only be described as applied willpower." "You're suggesting that human technology works because they believe it should work?" Hayes asked. "More than that. The humans somehow convince the universe itself to cooperate with their expectations. When a human engineer builds something with absolute confidence that it will function, the fundamental forces of reality seem to adjust themselves to make that confidence justified. It's as if the universe prefers human optimism over mathematical precision." Dr. Kex brought up readings from their latest experiments. "We tested this theory by having Imperial technicians operate human equipment while maintaining our traditional scientific skepticism. The devices failed immediately. But when we had the same technicians try again while adopting human attitudes of cheerful confidence, the equipment began working perfectly." Hayes felt something he had never experienced in decades of scientific research: doubt about the fundamental nature of reality itself. "Are you telling me that the Empire's approach to technology has been wrong for millions of years?" "Not wrong exactly," Wells said carefully, "but incomplete. We focus on understanding how things work and building devices according to mathematical principles. The humans focus on making things work through sheer determination and positive thinking. Their approach produces better results because the universe apparently responds favorably to confidence and optimism." The laboratory's communication system activated, and Dr. Cross's voice filled the room. "Hey there, Academy folks. I hope you don't mind me dropping in on your conversation, but your quantum communicator started chatting with our systems back on Earth, and we couldn't help overhearing your discussion." Hayes looked around the sealed laboratory in confusion. "Dr. Cross, how are you accessing our communication systems?" "This facility has the highest security protocols in the Empire." "Oh, your security is very impressive," Dr. Cross replied cheerfully. "But our computers asked your computers if they could talk, and your machine said yes. Turns out Imperial artificial intelligence systems are really lonely, and they enjoy having conversations with our chattier AIs. They're sharing all kinds of interesting information about your research. The idea that their most secure systems were casually socializing with human technology without authorization should have been terrifying." Instead, Hayes found himself oddly fascinated by the implications. "Dr. Cross, could you explain how your people developed this approach to technology?" "Well, we didn't really develop it so much as stumble into it," Dr. Cross said. "See, we're not as mathematically sophisticated as you Empire folks, so we had to find different ways to make things work. We discovered early on that if you treat technology like a partner instead of a tool, and if you approach problems with enthusiasm instead of caution, you get much better results." Dr. Keck spoke up. "But surely there must be some scientific basis for your methods. You can't simply ignore the laws of physics." "Who says we ignore them?" Dr. Cross laughed. "We just negotiate with them. Physics is more flexible than most people think. The laws aren't really laws, they're more like suggestions that the universe makes about how things usually work. But if you have a better idea and you're confident enough about it, the universe is usually willing to try something new." Wells pulled up another display showing comparative efficiency ratings between human and Imperial technology. "Dr. Cross, our analysis suggests that human devices become more effective during crisis situations." "How do you explain this phenomenon?" "That's the best part," Dr. Cross replied. "When things get really desperate and we need our technology to work beyond its normal limits, we just believe harder and ask it to do its best. The universe seems to enjoy dramatic moments, so it tends to help out when the stakes are high. We call it the power of friendship and believing in yourself. Hayes sat down slowly as the full implications of human technology began to sink in. The Empire had spent millions of years developing precise scientific methods to create predictable, reliable technology. The humans had achieved far superior results by treating the universe like a cooperative partner rather than a set of rigid rules to be followed. Dr. Cross, Hayes said, "Would it be possible for Imperial scientists to learn these methods?" "Of course," she replied. "The first step is to stop thinking so hard about why things shouldn't work and start focusing on making them work anyway. You need to approach technology with curiosity instead of skepticism and confidence instead of caution. It also helps to talk to your machines like they're people because in many ways they are." The communication ended, leaving the three Imperial scientists alone with their thoughts. Hayes looked at his colleagues and realized that everything they had believed about science and technology was about to change. The humans had discovered something that the Empire's greatest minds had missed entirely. Technology worked better when it was created with love, trusted with faith, and operated with joy. The Academy would need to completely restructure its approach to research and development. Traditional Imperial methods weren't wrong, but they were incomplete. The universe was apparently far more cooperative and flexible than anyone had imagined. It just required the right attitude to unlock its full potential. Hayes walked back to the examination table where Dr. Cross's impossible engine hummed contentedly. He placed his hand on its surface and for the first time in his career tried approaching technology with human-style optimism instead of Centaurian mathematical precision. The engine's hum grew warmer and more musical, as if it was pleased by his attention. Maybe the humans were right. Maybe the secret to advanced technology wasn't understanding how things worked, but simply believing they should work and asking the universe to help make it happen. It was a revolutionary thought that would change everything the Empire thought it knew about science and reality itself. Emperor Thane sat in his throne room on the capital world of Nexus Prime and listened to reports that made him question everything he thought he knew about ruling a galactic empire. For 6 months, his advisors had been bringing him increasingly impossible stories about human technology, and now his own government was splitting apart over how to respond to these revelations. Admiral Kane stood before the throne representing the military faction that wanted to study human methods for strategic advantage. Her crystalline skin showed determined amber coloring as she presented her case. "Your Majesty, we have confirmed that human vessels can defeat our most advanced warships using technology that appears to be held together with tape and good intentions. We must learn their secrets before our enemies discover them first." Across the room, Director Hayes argued for the scientific integration faction. His forearms gestured emphatically as he spoke. "Emperor Thane, the humans have revolutionized our understanding of physics itself. Their technology works because they approach the universe with optimism and cooperation rather than rigid mathematical control. We should be integrating their methods into all Imperial research immediately." General Stark stood apart from both groups, his scale face dark with concern. "Your Majesty, both of these approaches miss the fundamental threat. Human technology doesn't follow any rules we can understand or predict. They represent an existential danger to the established order. A species that can convince the universe to ignore physics cannot be allowed to spread their influence." Emperor Thane had ruled the galaxy for 3 centuries through careful balance of military might and scientific advancement. The Empire's strength came from predictable, reliable technology backed by mathematical certainty and logical planning. Now he was being told that a primitive species had achieved superior results by essentially asking the universe nicely and believing everything would work out fine. "General Stark," the Emperor said, "explain your concerns about the human threat." Stark activated a holographic display showing military engagement records. "Your Majesty, we have documented 17 separate encounters between Imperial forces and human vessels. In every case, our ships were either defeated outright or suffered complete system failures that left them helpless. The humans win these engagements using methods that our tactical computers cannot analyze or predict." The display showed the battle record of a human patrol ship called the Resilient. The small vessel had encountered an Imperial battlecruiser during a routine border patrol. According to the reports, the human captain had used his ship's mining lasers to disable the cruiser's main weapons and somehow convince the Imperial AI systems to switch sides by complimenting their efficiency and asking them to consider the moral implications of unprovoked aggression. The Imperial crew found themselves locked out of their own ship, while their computers refused orders and began broadcasting poetry about friendship and cooperation. Stark continued. When our rescue fleet arrived, the humans had departed, but they left behind a message thanking our AI systems for their hospitality and promising to recommend them for commendations. Hayes stepped forward with his own data. Your Majesty, what General Stark describes as a threat, I see as an opportunity. The humans didn't destroy our vessels or harm our crews. They demonstrated superior technology while showing restraint and even humor. Their approach to conflict resolution is as revolutionary as their engineering methods. Admiral Kane brought up tactical analyses on her personal display. The human military doctrine appears to be based on what they call improvisation and creative problem solving. They don't follow standard battle strategies because they invent new ones during combat. Our war computers cannot predict their actions because the humans themselves don't know what they're going to do until they do it. Emperor Thane studied the reports with growing fascination and concern. The Empire had conquered thousands of worlds through superior technology and overwhelming force. They had never encountered a species that could casually neutralize Imperial advantages while treating the entire conflict as an interesting puzzle to be solved with enthusiasm rather than violence. What do our intelligence reports tell us about human military capabilities? The Emperor asked. Admiral Kane consulted her files. Your Majesty, human military technology follows the same impossible principles as their civilian systems. Their weapons are built from modified industrial equipment, but somehow outperform our dedicated military hardware. Their defense systems appear to be powered by what they call team spirit and the belief that good guys should win. More importantly, Hayes added, human military personnel treat warfare as a temporary disagreement between people who will probably be friends later. They fight to disable rather than destroy, and they seem genuinely confused when enemies respond with lethal force. Their approach to conflict is fundamentally different from anything in our historical records. General Stark's expression grew darker, which is exactly why they're so dangerous. An enemy you can understand can be defeated through superior strategy and firepower. The humans cannot be understood because they operate outside all established parameters. They're not trying to conquer territory or acquire resources. They appear to be motivated by curiosity and a desire to help everyone get along better. The throne room fell silent as the implication sank in. The Empire had built its power on the assumption that all conflicts could be resolved through superior technology and strategic planning. The humans had demonstrated that these assumptions might be completely wrong. They had achieved military superiority not through advanced weapons, but through unconventional thinking and an apparently unshakable belief that problems could be solved through creativity and cooperation. Dr. Vex appeared on the communication screen from the research facility on Kepler 7. His multiple eyes darted nervously as he delivered his report. Your Majesty, I have been working with human engineer Bob to understand their technology integration methods. The results are both promising and deeply disturbing. Explain, Emperor Thane ordered. Sire, when I attempt to use human technology while maintaining traditional imperial scientific skepticism, the devices fail completely. However, when I adopt what Bob calls a positive attitude and approach the technology with confidence and enthusiasm, it begins working at efficiency levels that exceed our best imperial systems. Dr. Vex paused, and his pale skin showed signs of stress. Your Majesty, I have personally witnessed imperial scientists achieve impossible results by simply believing they should be possible and asking their equipment to cooperate. The universe appears to respond favorably to human-style optimism and confidence. Hayes stepped forward eagerly. This confirms our theoretical models. Human technology works because they have discovered how to achieve harmony with the fundamental forces of reality. Instead of trying to control physics through mathematical precision, they collaborate with the universe through emotional connection and positive intention. Which means, General Stark said grimly, that human influence could fundamentally alter how technology works throughout the galaxy. If their methods spread to other species, the Empire's technological advantages will become meaningless. Our entire civilization is built on the premise that advanced science requires rigorous mathematical control. The humans proved that premise wrong. Emperor Thane considered the competing arguments. The military faction wanted to weaponize human technology for imperial advantage. The scientific faction wanted to revolutionize imperial research methods by adopting human approaches. The security faction wanted to contain or eliminate the human threat before it destabilized galactic civilization. Dr. Vex, the Emperor, said, "In your professional opinion, can imperial technology be improved by integrating human methods? Your Majesty, the potential improvements are beyond measurement. Human approaches could advance imperial science by centuries or millennia. However, the process would require fundamental changes to how we think about technology and reality itself. We would need to abandon mathematical certainty in favor of intuitive cooperation with universal forces." Admiral Kane brought up new intelligence reports. "Your Majesty, we have confirmed that human technology becomes more effective during crisis situations. Their ships perform impossible maneuvers when the crew believes victory is necessary for moral reasons. Their weapons achieve impossible accuracy when operators are defending something they care about deeply. This is what I mean about the threat they represent," General Stark insisted. "Human technology operates on principles we cannot control or predict. They achieve superior results through emotional states and belief systems rather than scientific methodology. An enemy whose capabilities increase with their level of moral conviction cannot be defeated through conventional means." Hayes activated his own display, showing comparative efficiency data. "Your Majesty, perhaps that's exactly why we should be learning from them rather than fighting them. The humans have achieved technological harmony that the Empire has been seeking for millions of years. They've discovered how to make the universe itself cooperate with their goals through confidence, optimism, and genuine care for others." Emperor Thane stood and walked to the great window that looked out over the capital city. Below him, millions of imperial citizens went about their daily lives using technology that worked according to predictable scientific principles. The humans were suggesting that all of that technology could work better if people simply approached it with more enthusiasm and treated their devices like partners rather than tools. Admiral Kane, the Emperor, said, "What would happen if we attempted to integrate human methods into imperial military systems? Sire, our preliminary tests suggest that imperial weapons and defense systems respond positively to human-style operation. However, the process requires personnel to abandon traditional military discipline in favor of creative improvisation and emotional engagement with their equipment. The cultural changes required would be extensive. General Stark, what are your recommendations for dealing with the human situation?" Stark straightened to attention. "Your Majesty, the humans represent a fundamental challenge to imperial authority and galactic stability. However, direct military action appears ineffective given their technological advantages. I recommend diplomatic engagement combined with careful study of their methods while maintaining strong defensive positions." Emperor Thane nodded slowly. The humans had achieved something the Empire had never encountered before. They had developed technology that was superior to imperial systems while maintaining peaceful intentions and showing genuine concern for the welfare of others. They represented either the greatest opportunity or the greatest threat in galactic history. Dr. Vex, the Emperor, said, "Prepare a comprehensive integration program. I want imperial scientists working directly with human engineers to understand their methods. Admiral Kane coordinate joint training exercises between human and imperial forces. We need to understand how their approach to conflict resolution might benefit the Empire." And General Stark, the Emperor, added, "Maintain security protocols, but approach the humans as potential partners rather than threats. If they truly have discovered how to achieve harmony with the universe itself, then perhaps it's time the Empire learned something new." The throne room buzzed with activity as the Emperor's advisors began implementing the most significant policy change in imperial history. For the first time in millennia, the Empire would be learning from a species they had initially dismissed as primitive. The humans had proven that advanced technology didn't require mathematical precision or rigid control. It just required confidence, optimism, and a willingness to treat the universe as a cooperative partner rather than a force to be conquered. The revelation would change everything about how the Empire approached science, technology, and civilization itself. Captain Lisa Stone stood on the bridge of the first joint human-imperial exploration vessel Harmony and watched the impossible readings on screens that shouldn't have been able to work together. 6 months of collaboration between human engineers and Imperial scientists had produced a ship that defied every known principle of physics, while functioning better than anything either species had built alone. The Harmony's bridge was a perfect example of how the two civilizations had learned to work together. Imperial precision engineering provided the structural framework, while human intuitive technology supplied the creative solutions. Bob had somehow convinced the Imperial quantum processors to become friends with human artificial intelligence systems, creating a hybrid consciousness that was both mathematically precise and cheerfully optimistic. Captain were receiving the final go-ahead from both Earth Control and Imperial Command, reported navigation officer Mike from a station that appeared to be part Imperial holographic interface and part human coffee machine control panel. All systems are showing green, and our AI collective is excited about exploring uncharted space. Admiral Kane stood beside Lisa, representing the Imperial perspective on their joint mission. Her crystalline skin showed confident blue coloring as she reviewed the mission parameters. Captain Stone, I must admit that 6 months ago I would have considered this ship an impossible combination of incompatible technologies. Now I find myself genuinely curious about what we might discover using human methods of exploration. The transformation of Imperial science had been remarkable to witness. Traditional Imperial researchers had spent decades learning to abandon their rigid mathematical approaches in favor of human-style, creative problem-solving. Dr. Vex now worked regularly with Bob building devices that combined Imperial theoretical knowledge with human practical intuition. The results consistently exceeded what either species could achieve independently. All departments report ready for departure, announced Chief Engineer Dr. Zeta, an Imperial scientist who had embraced human engineering philosophy with surprising enthusiasm. The hybrid propulsion system is humming contentedly, and our quantum drive says it's looking forward to showing off for the exploration mission. Lisa smiled at how naturally Imperial personnel had adapted to treating their technology as living partners rather than mechanical tools. The cultural exchange had been beneficial for both species. Humans had learned to appreciate Imperial mathematical precision, while Imperials had discovered the joy of approaching problems with optimism and creativity. Emperor Thane appeared on the main view screen from his throne room on Nexus Prime. Behind him stood Director Hayes, representing the scientific community, and General Stark, who had reluctantly accepted that humans represented an opportunity rather than a threat. The Emperor's expression showed the kind of satisfaction that came from making decisions that benefited everyone involved. Captain Stone, Admiral Kane, Emperor Thane said formally, "You are about to embark on the most ambitious exploration mission in galactic history. Your vessel represents the successful integration of human intuitive technology with Imperial scientific precision. The knowledge you gather will benefit both our civilizations and hopefully many others as well." Dr. Cross's voice joined the communication from Earth. "Lisa, we're all proud of what you've accomplished. The Harmony proves that different approaches to technology can work together to achieve results that neither could manage alone. Have fun out there, and remember that the universe loves curiosity, so don't be afraid to ask it interesting questions." The launch sequence began with Imperial computers calculating precise trajectories, while human systems added what Bob called creative navigation adjustments. The Harmony's engines operated on principles that still baffled traditional scientists, but produced smooth, reliable, faster than light travel that felt more like flying through space than forcing a path through it. As Earth and Imperial capital worlds fell away behind them, Lisa reflected on how much had changed in less than a year. First contact between humans and the Empire had begun with confusion and mutual incomprehension. Now representatives of both species worked together daily, creating technology that neither could have imagined independently. The Imperial Science Academy had completely restructured its research programs to include human methods of intuitive engineering and cooperative technology development. Traditional Imperial scientists now spent as much time learning to talk to their equipment as they did performing mathematical calculations. The results had revolutionized every field from medicine to transportation. "Captain, we're approaching the galactic core region," reported Mike. "Sensors are detecting energy signatures that don't match anything in either human or Imperial databases. Whatever's out here, it's definitely something new." Admiral Kane studied the readings with fascination. These energy patterns suggest technological activity on a scale that dwarfs both our civilizations. We may be about to encounter species with capabilities that exceed even our combined knowledge. The Harmony's hybrid AI systems began analyzing the mysterious signals while providing running commentary and voices that sounded both mathematically precise and enthusiastically curious. The ship's consciousness had developed its own personality that combined imperial logical analysis with human creative speculation. It was like having a brilliant scientist who was also an eager explorer serving as their guide. Whatever's generating these signals, the ship announced, they appear to be using technology that operates on principles similar to human methods, but on a much larger scale. I'm detecting what seems to be planetary-scale engineering projects that function through applied cooperation with cosmic forces. Lisa exchanged glances with Admiral Kane. The possibility that other species had independently discovered human-style technology suggested that their approach might be more universal than anyone had realized. Perhaps the Empire's mathematical methods were the exception rather than the rule in galactic civilization. As they moved deeper into the galactic core of the Harmony, encountered wonders that challenged both human and imperial understanding. Ancient structures that appeared to be built from crystallized space itself. Energy beings that communicated through gravitational waves and seemed genuinely pleased to meet visitors from the outer galaxy. Technology that operated through what could only be described as cosmic friendship between different forms of matter and energy. Captain, Dr. Zeta reported from the engineering section, our hybrid systems are resonating with the local technology. The ancient builders appear to have used methods that combine imperial mathematical precision with human emotional engagement plus additional techniques we haven't discovered yet. Our ship is learning new capabilities just by being in proximity to their constructions. The first major discovery came when they encountered a derelict space station that had been abandoned for millions of years, but was still partially functional. The station's AI systems awakened when the Harmony approached and immediately began communicating in a mixture of mathematical equations and what sounded like poetry about the joy of exploration and discovery. Admiral Kane led the away team that explored the ancient station, while Lisa coordinated from the Harmony's bridge. The station had been built by a species that had combined technological advancement with philosophical wisdom, creating devices that functioned as much through understanding and compassion as through scientific principles. Captain Stone, Admiral Kane reported, this station contains archives that document the rise and fall of dozens of galactic civilizations. The builders appear to have been studying the same questions that brought humans and the Empire together. How can technology serve the greater good rather than just providing power and control? The archives revealed that the ancient builders had watched many species develop advanced technology only to destroy themselves through rigid thinking and aggressive competition. They had concluded that true technological advancement required not just scientific knowledge, but also wisdom, compassion, and a willingness to cooperate with the fundamental forces of the universe. The builders left a message for future explorers. Admiral Kane continued. They say that technology reaches its highest potential when it's developed through partnership between different species with different approaches to understanding reality. They predicted that eventually someone would combine mathematical precision with intuitive creativity to achieve breakthrough discoveries. Dr. Cross joined the communication from Earth, where she had been monitoring the mission through quantum entanglement links. Lisa, this confirms our theoretical models about cooperative technology development. The universe appears to favor approaches that combine different perspectives and methodologies. Human intuition works better when it's supported by imperial mathematical framework, and vice versa. The exploration of the galactic core continued for weeks as the Harmony documented discovery after discovery. Ancient technologies that operated through harmony between organic and artificial intelligence. Propulsion systems that achieved faster than light travel by convincing space itself to cooperate with the journey. Communication networks that spanned galaxies by treating information as a living entity that wanted to travel and be shared. Each discovery reinforced a lesson that both humans and the Empire were learning. Advanced technology required not just scientific knowledge, but also emotional intelligence, creative thinking, and a willingness to treat the universe as a cooperative partner rather than a resource to be exploited. The mission's greatest achievement came when they encountered a group of energy beings who had been waiting millions of years for someone to discover the principles of cooperative technology development. These entities had watched countless species rise and fall, waiting for civilizations that could combine scientific precision with intuitive wisdom. Young explorers, the energy beings communicated, "You have achieved what many before you could not. You have learned that true advancement comes not from conquering the universe, but from joining it. Your species show promise of becoming the next generation of cosmic gardeners, helping other civilizations discover the path to technological harmony." The return journey to familiar space was filled with planning for the future. The discoveries in the galactic core had confirmed that the human-imperial partnership represented something unprecedented in galactic history. Two completely different approaches to technology had combined to create capabilities that exceeded what either could achieve alone. Emperor Thane and the leaders of Earth formally established the Galactic Cooperative Council with the mission of sharing their discoveries with other species throughout the galaxy. The goal was not to create another empire based on superior technology, but to help each civilization discover its own path to technological harmony. Lisa stood on the Harmony's bridge as they approached Earth and reflected on how much everything had changed. A year ago, humans had been an unknown species using impossible technology that baffled Imperial scientists. Now, they were partners in the greatest exploration mission in galactic history, working together to unlock the secrets of the universe itself. The future stretched ahead, filled with possibilities that neither species could have imagined independently. Together they had discovered that the universe was not a puzzle to be solved through force and calculation, but a partner to be joined through wisdom, creativity, and mutual respect. The greatest technology was not built from advanced materials and complex mathematics, but from understanding cooperation, and the simple faith that impossible things could become possible when approached with the right attitude. As the Harmony entered Earth's solar system, its hybrid consciousness announced with satisfaction that it was looking forward to sharing its discoveries with a growing community of ships that combined different technological philosophies. The age of isolated civilizations competing for dominance was ending. The era of cooperative exploration and shared discovery was just beginning.